Welcome back to KRTV Marvel. We hope you enjoyed our previous video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Let's jump straight into this one. The clash between these two alpha titans has been hotly debated in the past, and while the King of Monsters movie did provide some contextualization, it didn't give a definitive response as to who would win a fight. I know that many people will have a natural inclination to side with Godzilla on this one, but there is much more to his ancient nemesis than meets the eye. So let's settle, once and for all, who deserves the title of King of the Monsters. Before we jump into this one, don't forget to subscribe to KRTV Marvel. In physical strength, it's sufficient to say Ghidorah rivals Godzilla's strength. They both clashed against each other using nothing but brute force in both Antarctica and Boston. But for the most part, the outcome of the brawl didn't produce a decisive winner. But there is way more to Ghidorah that makes him a tough opponent for the King of the Monsters. It survived the oxygen destroyer without a scratch, something that would have immobilized Godzilla for decades. King of the Monsters, Ghidorah was of alien origin, as with most of its incarnations, which is why it was almost immune to the oxygen destroyer. Maybe its body does not abide by the energies of the Earth. But if that wasn't a tough enough display of resilience, then let's not forget that it regenerated one of its heads, neck, and all within a few minutes of getting it torn off. Its gravity beams can blaze through buildings and knock over Godzilla, and it can fly fast enough to keep up with a sci-fi carrier plane. Strength and speed in the same package. It also has a force field of sorts that can protect it while it's in flight. It is always surrounded by a Category 6 hurricane when flying. And, to put that into perspective, there are 5 categories for hurricanes. Ghidorah has always been stronger than Godzilla in its base form because it is an alien and defies the natural order that Godzilla protects. He is also way bigger and heavier than Godzilla. He can fly when Godzilla can't, and when Godzilla and Ghidorah face off, it's technically a 3 versus 1, as we've seen that Godzilla can't handle all 3 heads at the same time, which is why he usually gets backup from 2 other titans, so it would be more of an even fight. If Godzilla were to win, it would need either the humans or other titans. In a 1v1, Ghidorah will beat Godzilla on land and in the air every time, but in the water, the chances are slim. Showa King Ghidorah would probably trample Godzilla in a one-on-one fight. It took on Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra by itself, 11 monsters at once, and Godzilla was never able to stand toe-to-toe with him in a fair battle. Godzilla's powers have been largely dependent on the movie and the series they're from, considering that there are so many different interpretations of the character, but we'll try to consider the ones from the King of the Monsters. Godzilla is radioactive and resides in the depths of the ocean where he can feed off of the radioactive elements in the Earth's core. He can then channel this energy to deliver a blast of nuclear energy which could exceed the temperature of the surface of the sun. It would clock in at around 500,000 degrees Celsius. Even the mightiest in the kaiju universe wouldn't survive a blast from this. And, for the most part, this is one of the only effective weapons Godzilla has against Ghidorah. He has absorbed energy from other kaiju. We all know that Godzilla and Mothra are the king and queens of the monsters. They both share a symbiotic relationship, but to me, there is more to this relationship than meets the eye. Godzilla uses his nuclear pulse as a last resort weapon, and its powers varies from a small nuclear explosion to an apocalyptic firestorm. But Mothra is more than just a regular kaiju. She is magical in a way, and a goddess who never dies. She may sacrifice herself in battle, but she always comes back due to her larvae. She is also one of the few kaiju who defeated Godzilla more than once, which speaks volumes. Needless to say, combining their powers is something that could be strong enough to take out the entire planet. Godzilla nearly killed King Ghidorah in their second encounter in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but Godzilla needed help from Mothra to win the final battle. Godzilla and Ghidorah battled at 3 different points in the movie, with varying results. The first had no clear winner, but Godzilla appeared to be gaining the upper hand. Their second battle, however, was much more conclusive. Godzilla ripped off one of Ghidorah's heads and likely would have finished the job if he wasn't hit with the oxygen destroyer. Their third and final showdown unfolded quite differently. Though both were getting in their fair share of blows, Godzilla seemed to be winning, but soon the tide turned in Ghidorah's favor. Despite being powered up by the radiation he had soaked up in the underwater civilization, it didn't seem to be enough to beat Ghidorah, who was hitting him with everything he had. After being dropped from the sky, it looked like victory was assured for Ghidorah, but Mothra used her life force to refuel Godzilla. Godzilla entered his burning form and quickly eviscerated Ghidorah with his atomic pulses. Does the fact that Godzilla would have lost without Mothra's help mean that he isn't the true king of the monsters? Well, no. Because there's a good reason why Godzilla suddenly couldn't beat Ghidorah alone. Ghidorah can absorb energy. The novelization reveals that when Ghidorah stood on the volcano and regenerated his missing head, he was drawing energy from the volcano itself. If he retained any of this energy following the regeneration, his power would increase. But I think this would be downplaying the powers of Ghidorah too much. It is a fact that Godzilla cannot defeat him on his own, and I know a lot of you fans out there would probably disagree, but the fact is that Ghidorah was way too powerful for Godzilla. In the very first confrontation, Godzilla did try. However, it was just too much, and Godzilla was defeated in the final scene. The next time they battled in the water scene, and for obvious reasons, Godzilla is amphibious, he was getting the better of Ghidorah, and he managed to rip off one of the heads. Once Godzilla got his first nuclear upgrade, his atomic breath was a huge asset, and while it did push Ghidorah back for a while, it did not stop it. Eventually, Ghidorah was still manhandling Godzilla. Okay, I'll play this a little outside the box. It's also because Godzilla was less rested. We don't know how these titans were all contained, but King Ghidorah has been sleeping for centuries. Godzilla fought the two monsters in the span of a few short years. We don't know how long Godzilla has to spend in his Atlantean radiation sauna to recover. The other titans all seem to have been in some form of hibernation or suspended animation. So, there is a very real chance that Godzilla just needed to finish recovery, but didn't have radiation to munch on. Also, take into account that Ghidorah, suspended in the ice, may not have aged the same as Godzilla since their previous fights. They had what appeared to be ancient drawings of the two fighting. If Godzilla was always that much weaker, he would have been killed. But maybe aging for those centuries has caught up with Godzilla, but not as much as the preserved Ghidorah. Godzilla could not defeat him on his own, and that is probably one of the main reasons why Godzilla and Mothra have a symbiotic connection, as she was probably created for this reason. She would sacrifice herself, and he would consume her life force energy. This would make him the thermonuclear Godzilla. Then, and only then, did he easily defeat Ghidorah. So who's the winner here? While it could be argued that Ghidorah, not being able to fly away while in the ocean, was at a disadvantage simply because he was in Godzilla's element, there is another way to prove that Godzilla is superior to Ghidorah in combat. Godzilla and Ghidorah, who are ancient rivals, fought thousands of years ago, with Godzilla emerging as the winner. So, when each monster only fights with its natural power, Godzilla wins. It's clear that despite receiving assistance from Mothra, there's no disputing that the title of King of the Monsters always belonged to Godzilla. So there you are, guys. I hope this video offers some good insight. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to KRTV Marvel for more content like this. And as always, thanks for watching.